Hey, welcome back to the Car Sucker. My name is Jimmy Prater. I'm a closer. That's what I do. I close and close. I close car deals. And I want you to close car deals. I want you to close and close and close and close more car deals than anyone ever has done in their life. You can do it. And this is a story about persistence because this business attracts a lot of self-motivating people. And you have to be self-motivating. You have to be persistent. I know a guy that I used to sell cars with. He was an incredible salesperson. We used to call him One Car Louie because his name was Louie Kappas. We sold Fords, but Louie was the best dressed salesperson there and had the best delivery. He would get in there first thing in the morning. He would go to town with a customer. He would close them and close them and close them and gross them and gross them and gross them. And Louie was incredible. But you know what? Louie would try to stay by himself, and that's what a lot of successful people do. Don't be jealous of those people because they're selling 20 or 30 or 40 cars a month. Get to know those people. Find out what makes them click. Find out why they sell so many cars. Maybe you can learn something from them. Every time you meet somebody, you should be learning something from that individual all the time. I got to know Louie. Louie was also a professional guitar player. He toured all over the world with famous bands. But you know one thing about Louie, when Louie decides to do something, he's all in. And that's when he decided to get in the car business. He didn't want to tour anymore. He hung up his guitar and that was it. Came into business and the rest is history. Louie one time told me a story. This story fit Louie to a T because I would tell him, you should go out and write books about motivation because you're a great motivator. You're an unbelievable motivator. You're an outstanding motivator. He didn't look at himself like that because he thought that he could never articulate it in a book. But if he just told the story, you would be motivated. So he would just tell a story to his customers and they would be motivated. He told me this story. I've always remembered it and I became motivated over that story. And that portion of the motivation was just persistence. See, Louie had a downtime in the business in Los Angeles, California. He couldn't find a gig. He's a studio guy and a stage guy. So he had a buddy that was living in Nashville, Tennessee. Louie flew to Nashville, Tennessee and got himself an agent. Said, I'll jump into country music. So Louie jumped into country music, went on auditions all over town. He said they were incredible auditions. They were the best auditions in the world. He said, I was just so hoping to land one of them. I had the talent. I could do this. And I had the showmanship. And that's part of sales. You got to have the talent. You always have to be learning. You can't be complacent. And you have to have a showmanship about yourself. So Louie couldn't get a gig right away. So he got a phone call from New York from another buddy of his, and he got into a jazz band. He said, I just didn't like the gig. He says, there was 5 of us living in a little studio apartment. He said, it didn't pay very good. He said, I'd get up on stage and wear a little bow tie. He said, it didn't fit me. So one day I get a call. He said, and it was the agent down in Nashville, Tennessee. And Louie says, the agent said that Johnny Cash picked me to go on tour for his last concert. His last touring. And Louie said, sure, I'm going to take that gig. I was so jazzed up. He said, I got excited. He says, there was a plane ticket waiting for me at LaGuardia Airport in New York City. And he says, I fly to Tennessee. He said, we land. I get off. First thing I did was I go to the payphone because, cell phones, we didn't have them back then. And communication was a little bit difficult. But Louie says, I put the coins in the cell phone. I called my buddy in Nashville, told him I'm right here, right outside the airport at the local Holiday Inn, and I'm going to be at the bar, and I'm going to have a couple drinks, and why don't you come pick me up? Well, a couple hours go by, his buddy never came there. So he called him again. He says, man, I was just there. He said, oh, man, I must have been in the restroom. Come back and get me. So he didn't show up. His buddy didn't show up again. And he decided to get a room at the Holiday Inn. Wake up in the morning, call his buddy and say, listen, come pick me up because I got to be at rehearsal with Johnny Cash. Louie wakes up, same routine. Goes to the bar, and at the bar, they had a payphone. Louie went ahead and called his buddy again. Louie called his buddy, and his buddy says, okay, you stay right there. I'll be right there. Didn't show up. Louie waits a little while, calls his buddy. Louie's now a little freaked out because he's got to get to this rehearsal with Johnny Cash. He says, hey, where are you? He's a little aggressive with it. His buddy says, hey, I was there again and you weren't there. I was there twice last night. One time this morning, you're not there. He says, well, I'm sitting right here. You should come and get me. Now, this is how Louie would sell cars, too. Louis had just an incredible personality. A little short guy, well, you know, he's a little small in stature, but a big personality. Greatest salesperson I've ever run across. His buddy says, hey, listen, Louis, do me a favor. Ask the bartender right there if there's 2 Holiday Inns here in Nashville. Sir, is there 2 Holiday Inns here in Nashville? He goes, Nashville, you're in Pittsburgh. And Louis, being the positive person he is, he goes, hey, I'm in Pittsburgh. How can you get me back to Nashville? Okay, so the guy says, well, you're going to have to go get yourself a ticket. Louis says, I barely had enough money to get a ticket to get to Nashville. He gets to Nashville. Before he leaves to go to Nashville, he calls his agent and tells his agent what happened. His agent says, lose my number. That's not Louis. Louis is persistent. Louis says, I had all the information. I knew where the studio was. I'm going to the rehearsal studio, and I'm going to get on tour with Johnny Cash. He gets to the studio, bangs on the back door, and security guy come out and says, no, you're not on the list. You can't come in. He says, I'm going in. Louis getting in. Louis went in, made a commotion. Johnny Cash was walking through, and Johnny Cash says, what's going on? Louis tells him the story. And he says, Johnny Cash says, you'll fit right in. So that's Louis selling a car. And showmanship and persistence and high energy. That's what sells cars. Your attitude, your appearance, your listening skills sells cars. That's who you have to be. You have to be yourself, but you got to be on stage. You got to perform. You have to tell stories. People want to hear your story, but they want to hear a story that's really you, that's really about you, a passionate story. And Louis sold 30 cars a month. He sold 30 cars a month, and he was a guitar player for Johnny Cash. Listen, my name is Jimmy Prater. This is the Car Sharker. There's a little thing at the bottom down there. You see it, that little icon? Do me a favor and click that, subscribe to my channel. At the same time, if you hit that little bell, every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Now do yourself a favor. Go close something!